Hey, welcome back to another episode of Code 4 Cooking. I'm Jeff, and today we're going to be making American Goulash. My name is Jeff Antonenko. I was a paramedic for over 26 years. I did my bit for king and country, but it took its toll, physically, emotionally, and mentally. One thing that could always bring me peace and calm, and that's cooking. Ask my partners. We ate well. Now I want to share that place with you. For my first responder and military family, I want to share my knowledge and experience of cooking, start to finish, with me, and hope you can find your peace and calm while cooking. And to anyone else just starting or in need of a person to cook with, from gathering and prepping our ingredients to cooking, and finally plating and tasting, let's help you find that peace and calm as well in cooking. So come on, cook with me. Alright, so we've got our ingredients. What we got to do is, remember we love to do mise en place, get everything in its order. So over here we have our ground beef. We have onions, pepper, garlic. And we're going to be mincing these, cutting these up and putting them in the bowl. And then we've got our diced tomatoes, tomato paste, and our seasonings, and our macaroni, and our pasta sauce. So what you're going to need for this is can opener, garlic press of your choosing. If you don't have a garlic press, just keep chopping that up, chopping that garlic up until you get it into the right size. You're going to need some measuring spoons, and of course a sharp knife. Pots and pans are out. We're going to get started. Okay, so we're not going to go ahead and do anything with the beef right off the bat, because what we're going to do is we're going to want to get all of this stuff prepped and ready before we go to the cook. And so that's where we're going to take our pause and then come back and start cooking everything so it's nice and even, and then it's just putting things together. So I'm going to set the beef aside for a minute. We're going to go ahead and start with our onion. Got a good sized onion here. Now we're going to cut the top. And then just as it starts to flap, you can see you got a nice peel there. And now we just got to peel the skin. And it doesn't always come off clean. So you're going to have all these little flaky things. But you can't cook with this on, because that's just wrong. Take your time. Get it all off. Now, if onions are something that bother you, there's a couple ways of reducing the eye irritation from cutting an onion. Some people I've seen actually get swimming goggles or ski goggles, as long as they can see through them clearly. Other people have had a small fan in front of them, where the little the juices, rather than coming up into your eye, are blown to the side. Put that for compost later. Excuse me. Alright, so we've got the skin off our onion. Now we're going to go ahead and cut it. This is the bulb end. We're going to cut right through this. And this is what we're going to use to help keep everything attached while we dice this up. So hold it in place. You got your two halves. You want to keep your fingers away from your knife. So what you're going to do is you're going to hold the knife here. You're going to go laterally, just like that. And then again. One more time. And you're not cutting all the way through. You're stopping short of that end of that bulb there. Now here's a trick. I should have brought this out to begin with. So this is a giant silicone trivet. It's from ThermalWorks. And our cutting board is not hot. However, we can put it on top, and that'll keep our cutting board from moving. Little tricks like that. Alright, we're going to come back, and now we're going to do our cut straight down. Remember, we're not going all the way to the end. We want to keep our hands away from our knife. So your fingers are going to run the knife like this, and that's how you're going to pare it out, just so you can hold that onion, make those cuts. Take your time. You don't want to lose a finger. There. Alright, so that goes there. And now, we do the other side. So again, the same thing, keeping your fingers away. Nice easy cut throughs. And when you get little things like this, don't worry about it, we can clean that up later. We're going to go down. Hold the onion. Make your cuts. That's Sansa. She's very vocal today. And for the time of day, there's people starting to come home from school and things of that nature. So, or it's a squirrel, or another dog a block away. Tony's over there sitting with her, just kind of wondering why she's barking. Oh. Alright. Now to our pepper. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the top off this, just like that. This piece, you can just break the parts off to take the stem out. Toss that to the compost. Now we're going to reach in here and just pull the core out. Green peppers are very mild. It's the veins that run in between and the seeds of all peppers is what makes them hot. But green peppers are not considered part of the hot category. Cut the top up. Alright. A couple different ways that you can do peppers. You can cut them lengthwise, like this, and then chop them. Or you make longer strips and then come back and make your other cuts. There's no wrong way at that. So let's see what a difference it makes when it's a little bit longer. And these are just going to lay flat while you cut. You chop these as tight or small as you like. I myself want to know I'm having a little bit of pepper. So I like, making sure that hey Sansa, that I'm having that bite with that pepper. Again, it's not about being hot. You know when you see a pepper and they're bright and green, tasty, and then you go to get them and you find out that you've overcooked them to the point where they're mush. It's just not good. Alright, onward to the garlic. Alright, so I like garlic, so I'm putting a little more in, and that's the joy of cooking. If you have a preference on what ingredients you want to have more of in that flavor, add it. I'm putting a little bit more garlic in here. I like a little bit garlic forward. So take the flat of the knife, put it over your garlic. That gives it a little crush, and then the skin comes right off. If you have that little end piece there, cut that off first. And then crush it. Remember, keep your hands away from that blade. You really don't want to touch the sharp end of that knife. And if you have sharp knives, you'll know why that's such a big deal. If you've been cooking and your knives are dull, take them to a sharpener and have them professionally sharpened. If the quality of the knife is a little bit lower end on the spectrum as far as the cost goes, there are a lot of good sharpeners that you can buy at the hardware stores, and run them through those. They have directions on them. You just run them through before you start working with them. You'll be amazed at how much the work is easier with sharp knives. All right, I got my garlic press here. Get my garlic in here. And I'm just going to crush it right into this bowl. There we go. Now, I'm using the back end of the knife, not the blade. I'm just going to scrape that off in there. Just like that. Excuse me. Alright, so I'm going to put this in the sink. Take a little drink, wet my whistle. Alright, so there we have it. We've got our onions and our green pepper set aside. What we're going to do next is our beef broth. Now, if you have the container of beef broth, you don't need to heat it up. I like using better than bouillon. I think the flavor's better. It's easier to work. It's just as easy to work with. The only difference is that we have to put it on the stove. So, here's my pot. Here's my better than bouillon. Measuring cup. Now I had heated this kettle up earlier, so I'm going to go ahead and pour 2 cups of hot water. I need my bouillon measured out. You see, it's all sticky. It's concentrate. Now I pour the hot water into the pan over the spoon. Just like that, and it's all in. Set this over to the sink. Now I'll put this on the stove, and I just need to warm it up. I'll put it on the back burner. Alright, so that's going on the back burner. We're going to let that go ahead and heat itself up and give it a little stir as it starts warming up. Put that away. Alright. Yes, I have my notes here. I love making notes when I cook. I used to hate it, and I would just throw in all my ingredients kind of willy-nilly because I kind of have a good feel for what I want. And then I discovered I would make really good meals, and I would forget how much of whatever it is I put in. And then I would struggle to recreate it. So, just take a look here. Alright, so now we've got another bowl here. Let's set our cutting board off to the side. Our trivet. Get our extra little pieces that fell out. Compost. Alright, diced tomatoes, tomato paste. Now I've got 2 jars of sauce. I'm just going to finish this one off and then top that. And we need 2 cups for that, so we'll get out a measuring cup here. It's 1.5. Here we go. There we go. All right, put my knife over here, rinse it off. Set that in the sink. Got the can opener. All right, so this is rimmed. These are the diced tomatoes. And it says right here it's 14.5 ounces, so that's what we're using. When you open your can up, you can take this lid off completely, or as you get right to the end, slow down, and so it's still connected. You see you got a little bow here? Just real gently lift that up so you don't have to worry about the lid falling in or splashing out. Give it a little shake. Everything's out. Lid folds in, safety, you're not going to cut yourself. That goes there. Now, tomato paste, same thing. We're going to go ahead and open this can up. And get to the end. Now, if it doesn't come up enough for you to be able to just lift it out easily, take the end of a spoon or a knife, dull knife, and just lift that out. All right, now it says 3 tablespoons of tomato paste. So we're going to go. It's 1, 2, 3. We'll get in there. All right. Got that. I'm going to set this aside. Wash my fingers. All right. Now, this is the other nice part about having this lid on here. For right now, I can just fold that over and set it off to the side, and it's out of sight, safe. You don't have to worry about a kid coming in and grabbing it, cutting their fingers, or, you know, your spouse. All that would probably be pretty horrible. All right, so we need 2 cups of the marinara. There's about half. It's 1. And 2. Excellent. I'll put this to the side, refrigerate that later. Add in the sink. I just got a little bit of marinara on the countertop, so clean that up. Good. All right, now let's make sure we've got everything that we've needed. We need our Italian seasoning and our bay leaves. So we'll get 2 bay leaves. And it says, how much do we need here? Oh, 1.5 teaspoons of Italian seasoning. So, now again, this is where we look at our seasoning. And it, unlike baking, where you really have to be spot on meticulous, you got a lot of playroom. So there's my teaspoon. And I'm going to fill this up. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the top off. A lot of times when I'm working with my seasonings, I just shake it straight into the, and just kind of guesstimate. Alright, so there's 1 and a half. Maybe a little more. But again, we don't have to worry about that. Alright, that's done. Can opener's clean because it didn't get into the tomatoes, so we'll put that away. I'm going to take my whisk my better than bouillon, and I'm going to turn that flame right off because we don't need that. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is measure out our macaroni. So I've got the large elbow macaroni, and it says that we need I got the sauce on my thumb. 1¼ cup uncooked noodles. So I'm going to get one more bowl out. And my measuring cups here. So that's 1. And 1/4. Now, the last one on the floor. The the only main part of measuring out for this, the macaroni, is because it's based on the amount of liquid that we're going to be having in the pan later. All right, because that's going to start absorbing it. So if you put too much in, either the macaroni is not going to have enough water to absorb and it won't cook properly, or you're going to suck all the moisture out of everything and have a very reduced sauce that's not going to taste very good. So if you are adding more macaroni, if you want to be macaroni forward, I would say for every half cup of macaroni noodles, I would do a half cup of water. That way you're going to have that ratio better. Alright, so that's measured out. And now we're going to take a break. We've got all of our ingredients ready. We're going to take a minute break. Again, relax. Go use the bathroom. Get yourself a drink of water. Go pet a dog. When you're ready, come on back. We're going to fire up the stove top. And apparently Tony found whatever it was that fell on the floor and he ate it. Go take a break. When we come back, we're going to get things cooking. Alright? See you soon. Alright, welcome back. Hope you had a nice break. Now we're going to get to literally the meaty side of cooking. Always have your water bottle handy. So we're going to get our pan over here. I'm going to put this on a good heat. Our noodles off to the side. We're going to use those last. Got our salt and pepper. Here we go with our meat. Okay, so we're going to be putting our meat in our pan. We're going to give that just a little bit to heat up first. When we put this in here, we want to cook the meat entirely, so we don't want to have any pink left. And the best way to do that is to keep it moving. So it's not going to be stirring it constantly like a soup, but we are going to let it sit and stir, sit and stir, and make sure that heat is getting all of that beef cooked down right where we want it. Now I'm using an 80-20 meat on here. That's 80% meat, 20% fat. Fat is flavor. Let's not get worried about this. Remember, if you read ahead in the directions, one of the things we're going to do is, as we cook this down, we're going to take that fat off and out of the pan and continue cooking with everything else. So most of the fat is going to be removed. The little bit that remains is going to be used to help cook down the onions and the peppers and meld in our sauce to give us that goodness. All right. If you haven't yet, I did before we started recording, wash your hands. And we can get our meat into the pan. That lovely sizzle. I'll put this in the garbage. Before I go forward, handle raw meat, I'm going to wash my hands. There we go. Now, let's get ourselves a wooden spoon here. Now, this is stainless steel. So if you wanted to use metal utensils, you can. It's safe to use in this. No real need for it. I'm going to start spreading this out so it's getting its crust, that browning. You've heard me talk about it in other videos. It's called the Maillard effect. And that's just fun to be scientific-y. Alright, now you want to season as you go. So I got my kosher salt. There we go. A couple pinches of that. My black pepper. and shake in as much as you feel like you want to have. If you're concerned about how much salt and pepper you're applying, put a little bit in now, stir your meat, and add a little bit more later. Now, one of the key things with cooking any type of meat that you're trying to brown, you have to remember is that once it goes into the hot pan, it soaks up that heat. And so the heat for the pan is actually gone. Not gone completely, but it's gone down. So I turned my heat up a little bit to compensate, and you can hear it starting to sizzle some more, and that's browning that meat and rendering that fat. So now we'll give this a stir, and this will help mix in that salt and pepper that we put in here. There we go, just like that. Just scrape anything off there. Alright, now I'm going to set my spoon down and let that sit for a minute to brown. And then I have a large spoon and a small cup. And what I'll do is, once the meat has been browned up significantly and we're getting ready to take that fat off, I'm going to set this down next to the stove, tilt it, and then spoon the fat into the cup. And then we can dispose of that fat later. Remember, never, ever, 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 ever put fat into the sink. You may think you're going to run enough hot water and use Dawn and wash it all away. It doesn't. It gets a few feet down those pipes and it congeals. If by chance it does make it further, all you're going to do is make it stop up somewhere else. So all of your fats, you can let them cool. Use an old egg carton to pour them into and throw it away. Don't put fats in the sink. Alright. We're getting close to where we want to be here. All our little pink goodies are browning up, just like we want them to. If you wanted to, you could put a lid on this for a minute, and that'll just trap some of that heat coming off and steams it a little bit more. Not really going to make a whole lot of a difference. I got my broth in the back here. It's ready to be added. Okay, let's consult our book. Let's see where we are on the recipe. Okay, we are cooking our beef. We have our onions, garlic, and pepper ready to go into it. And then we're going to drain the fat. Might drain some of the fat off first, but we'll see where we're at. But we definitely drain the fat before we're going to add our liquid ingredients and our seasonings. You can see that fat really bubbles up nicely. Rendering out. So that'll be done in just a second. Well, let's go see what they're barking at. What do you got, guys? What? Ow. That's so sad for you. Someone else was walking their dog at the end of the block. But you know what? Safety first. Can't argue with that little girl. Alright. Right? Can't argue with that. I know. Yeah. Alright. Now here's a good spot where you don't want your beef to be cooked to death, but you want to know if it's got any flavor. Just find a little bit here on top that's completely cooked. Ooh, hot. Yep. I think I'm going to add just a little more pepper. But I'm going to hold off on the salt. And one of the reasons I'm going to hold off on adding any more salt, you can just barely tell that the salt's in there. But the beef broth carries with it a lot of salt as well. All right. Let's get our peppers and onions in here. Just be careful when you're stirring. You don't want to be flinging the meat, peppers out of the pan. But you want to try to work the meat to the top and the onions down by where the heat's at. And we're going to leave that there. All right, going to set our bowl off to the side. Next up is going to be our broth, which is at the back. And like I said, you probably weren't working with, if you are working with the beef bouillon and it's warm at the back, fantastic. If you're working with the carton, it's not a big deal. It's good too. But I always try to make sure that whatever I'm cooking, especially going into a hot pan like this, if you warm that broth up, you're not going to take away a lot of that heat right away and have to wait for it to build back up. Nothing we can do about this. It's room temperature. It is going to drop the temp a little bit in the pan, but not significantly enough that we're going to have a problem cooking with it. There we go. You see all these little brown bits on the side of the pan there? All the way through there. That's part of the browning effect. And when we add the broth, we add our other gooey goodness, it's going to deglaze. It's going to take that off. Those are brown bits of flavor. That's all I ever see when I see that is nothing but flavor. All right, I'm going to pull this to the side. Let's see how much fat wants to come down and play. Got my bowl here. I got my spoon. Now, if it concerns you, working around the flame, turn the heat source off or move it to another side of the stove and do this. Remember, fat is flavor. So if a little bit gets left behind, you're not going to see like a layer of grease on top of this. There's not enough in here to do that. But I always like cooking with a little bit of fatty meats because that's where a lot of the flavor transfer comes in. Alright, I think we've got enough out of here. So let's take this and set it off to the side. We got to get our flame back on. Spread this out. Alright, now remember, this is where our broth is coming in. We're going to go ahead and add our broth. And you can tell right away that was not as hot as the pan, which is okay. It doesn't have to be. But now we're going to pour that in and let that warm a little bit. Now, excuse me, because I had the broth in the pan, when I take it to the sink, there's always a little bit of residue in any pan you cook with. But I want to add water to that, and that way it doesn't dry onto that pan, which is going to make it a whole lot harder to clean later. Alright, so we got our onions. And like I said, we cook our onions down so that they've cooked, but we're not looking at getting them all to the point of mush. Same thing with the peppers. If you like to have your onions cooked down a little bit more and your peppers cooked down a little bit more, what I would recommend is getting a bowl for your meat. Take the meat out of the pan and cook your onions and peppers. And then as they're getting as done as you want them, add the meat back in and add the broth. That way you've cooked your onions down and peppers down as where to your liking. Right? You see this is just, you can hear it, it's just starting to bubble. And since that's up, let's go ahead and get our mixture here and add it in. Now here's an interesting conundrum. For where this is at, if I forcibly stir this in, I have a feeling that this pan will overflow. So I'm going to take this off the heat. And bring out the big ones. Now I'm going to let that sit on that pan. Hey, this is cooking, man. You find out you need a bigger pan. If you don't have a bigger pan, take some of it out. You know, put it into another smaller pan. So you just divide it up. That's just as good too. I have this large skillet. I could have brought out a smaller skillet and shared it. But I have a great big pan, so I'm going to use that. Right? Now I'm just letting that pan warm up so that everything's not going into a cold pan. Give it a minute. Get a little water. And here's the thing. This is what we're doing. We're cooking. If your pan was big enough and you're set and you're waiting on me now, turn the temperature down so that you don't cook off the water too much, right? Because we've got to add our macaroni. It's going to need that water. All right, I'm going to take this very carefully. And there we go. Now let's give it a good stir. So, real-time cooking. I don't have a whole lot of movie magic for you, sorry. It's not uncommon to have eyes bigger than your stomach or eyes bigger than the recipe. I'm going to turn this down just to simmer it. I know I said it earlier while we were working on this, is that if you wanted to add more, add more. Again, in this situation, just be mindful. If you are adding more, you need to have the room to add it. Okay, or divide and conquer. All right, let's check where we're at. Okay, good. We're going to simmer this and get this, give it a stir every few minutes. In the meantime, what I want you to do is I want you to take your fat, that's cooled off, set it aside. And this is where we have our time to be able to relax and reflect. So first things first, let's go ahead and do some cleaning. I've got a number of these things that I'm going to be able to put straight into my dishwasher. So let's go ahead and get these in. Now I've eaten off that fork, so I'm going to put that away. My fat spoon, that can go in the dishwasher. All of my mixing cups that I've used can go in here. And if you don't have a dishwasher to be able to put everything into, then start washing things by hand. Okay, so that in there. Let's give our sauce a little stir. you don't want this boiling over. So you just want to, if it starts to boil like that again, then we're going to turn our temperature down because we just want it at a simmer. Put the salt away, black pepper back in its cabinet, seasonings, put those away. Now I've got an egg carton in my garbage. I'm going to pour this into that. Alright, so that put in the garbage, so now I can put this in this dishwasher to be washed later. Our macaroni is going in next, so let's keep that handy. And I am going to go ahead and over here by the sink. I'm going to take a minute, wash my knife. I'm going to wash the pot that I had the Better Than Bouillon in. What's up, Sansa? I'll come look in a minute. Alright. So we've got some of our cleanup done. This is simmering nicely. Ooh, and this is another nice part about simmering nicely. It's not overly hot. Give it a little stir. Find that little bite there that's got a little beef, a little tomato, a little onion. Okay. Well, yeah, those flavors are really blending nicely. Remember, using these drier ingredients, they're being rehydrated. So as time goes on, you're going to be getting more and more of those flavors coming through. So that's why when we talk about looking at 15 minutes, 20 minutes, you want to really let those seasonings sink in. If I needed to add anything right now, I would need to wait at least 10 minutes before I would know how much it changed in the sauce itself. So this is why we can be patient. Use the spoon, put it away, out of sight, so that you're not accidentally putting a spoon that you've licked off of back in the dinner. Alright, I'm moving my book out of the way, noodles out of the way, washcloth, and I'm going to take a sec and clean my area up. Oh, I just happen to have, if you're wondering, so my wife gets the liquid suds. It's not called liquid suds, it's a concentrated cleaner. You're able to water down and use it in a spray bottle. Quite handy. Just make sure that you don't put too much in, because when you start cleaning, rather than being able to have just this nice balance of clean, you end up putting so much soap on your area, you have to come back with a wet washcloth to clean it off. And that's no good for anybody. Alright. Just going to set my trivet here for looks. And I know it hasn't been 15 minutes, but we've been simmering and we're cooking, and you want to get on with it. Let's give it one more stir. And while you're stirring, find the bay leaves, and you can either take them out now, before we add the macaroni. You can find them both. Or maybe you can find it when you're serving. And if that's the case, just tell your guest or your family member or whomever that you're sharing your meal with, don't eat it. Ah, got it. Success. All right. We only put in those two. Now, come back. Got our bay leaves out. Now we're going to add our macaroni. All right, there we go. Remember, it doesn't look like a lot, but these just about triple in size when they've absorbed all the moisture. Turn the heat up just a little bit. Okay, we are just about done. I am going to give this, it really takes about 20 minutes for the macaroni to finish cooking. So what we're going to do is we're going to have another break, and we're going to set a timer, and we're going to come back here in 15 minutes. But in the 15 minutes that we're gone, I'm going to go through, make sure that this doesn't boil over, but I'm going to finish cleaning my kitchen. I'm going to get my pots and pans all washed up. The cutting board didn't have meat on it. I can go ahead and scrub that out in the sink. And then when we come back, we'll be looking at getting ready to plate. So let's go ahead and take a minute. I'll see you back here in 15 minutes. If you're not really ready to clean up and you feel like you're overstressed, go get yourself a glass of water, have another bathroom break, relax, play with the dog, and see you back here. 15 minutes. All right. Okay, welcome back. It's been 15 minutes. Hope you had a good break. Hope you were stirring this as you were going along. You can tell you're just about there because those noodles are, look how big those are compared to what went in. So now we're going to give that another stir. And as I go to taste, I'm going to turn the heat down to completely down to low. Grab a fresh spoon. And I'm going to find one of those noodles and a little bit of beef. And this is going to be one of those points where we're going to test this not just for doneness of the noodle, but we're also going to check for flavor. All right? Hot. Alright, mine are done. So, they're perfect al dente. For my liking, it's got a good, the broth is really nice. It's thick, it's meaty. I'm going to spoon some out here. Just a little taster. Might as well use my same spoon that I've been using. You know, as I go through this, my bell peppers are still firm, crisp. The onion is cooked down a little bit more, so but they still have a body to them. So I do have retained a little bit of that crunch. Same thing with the peppers. They're not mush at all. I think it's got a good balance between the salt and pepper on this. Oh, one of the things that we should have done, and this is why I have my book and keep it with me, and I'm going to mark it down here. Get a good bread. Find yourself a baguette. Heat that up, cut it up, put some butter on there. Oh man, that would have been perfect. That just, it's kind of like a chili or whatnot. It just soaks up the sauce, and that bread is always so wonderful with this. So in the future, remember, Keep your notes. Get a good bread. I like this. All right. All right. Get a good bread. You got a great meal here. You got plenty for everybody. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. I hope you've found this relaxing. This is a wonderful meal that we've had put together. We've taken our time and we haven't been stressed. So I'll look forward to seeing you on another episode of Code 4 Cooking. Take care. Hey, if you like what you saw here, please hit the like and subscribe button as always. That way we continue to bring new content and get you more videos out there that you can enjoy. Thanks very much. Keep cooking. We'll see you back here in Code 4 Cooking.